Kinks. Guys, welcome to our Cast of Us show. Me and Bruce Green do the show every week to discuss The Last of Us, which is just the hottest show on TV right now. It's not TV, it's HBO. And this week, we've called in the help of expert pop culturist. She's been on G4's X-Play, but you've also seen her on the Andor discussion show, the Obi-Wan discussion show I used to do on Fresh Inc. With G4. Welcome, frankly, Emily, or Emily Rose Jacobson, as I know her by. Welcome, Emily. Oh, no. Now she's muted.
No, she's muted. I think you may have muted her in guest star. Oh, there we go.
Whoa, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
there she is.
good.
Okay. Emily, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. You know what? It's been a little crazy on my end. As you can tell, this isn't my ideal streaming setup. Apartment flooded, had to move things around. Also moving, so thank you for letting me literally call in to your stream and participate.
Thanks for even considering to do it amidst all that chaos. You know,
seriously.
I don't
That's
think
a lot of work.
I don't think I would have been able to do it. Thank you, but I'm so glad we got you on this episode, which has just been like my timeline has been flooded with episode 3 discussion. And just a reminder for you guys out there, this is a spoiler-filled conversation that we have, right, Bruce?
Absolutely. So I want you to know that Ellie dies in this episode.
Wait, no,
Oh, yeah.
no,
that was
God,
rough.
no, that's
Oh,
a
no,
spoiler
that's that
and
one? Okay,
no, that's a spoiler
all right.
and a lie.
Okay.
When we will lie, but we don't pretend to be experts, but we just like TV and we like video games, and this is a TV from a video game. So here we are together talking about it. And guys, I mean, I'm sure your timelines have been lit up just as much. What's your reactions to episode 3?
Emily, you go ahead and go first.
You're our special guest. Talk to us.
You're our new guest.
Oh, I was blown away. I think it was a lot different from what I anticipated, having played the game a lot. But it was something so special and so wonderful, and I'm so glad we got to actually get to know the character of Frank versus how you really don't get to know him in the game. And yeah, I saw people online saying like not a lot happened in this episode, but I disagree. A lot happened with Joel and Ellie. You just had to look for it. So I was blown away by the performances. I was blown away by just the storytelling in this episode. And I thought it was just really, really strong, unexpected, but in a great way.
Yeah, agree. Hard agree. And I like your comment about kind of what happened with Joel and Ellie, because it was there, you know, and the show was bookended by them, and we'll get into that. Bruce, what'd you think, buddy?
I liked it. I don't think I liked it as much as everybody else. I think probably because it was an hour and 15 minutes. Maybe felt a little long to me.
You got a lot to do. That's a lot of show.
No, it's like it was more of like it was interesting because I was like, when is this going to end? I actually didn't know it was an hour and 15 minutes until it was over.
Oh shoot!
And so I was expecting some narrative to develop a little bit more, but it didn't, and that's okay. Right. It was a prestige piece of television that was really enjoyable to watch. I loved watching, I believe, I can't remember his last name, but Murray is the name of the guy who plays
Murray
Frank.
Bartlett, yeah.
Murray Bartlett, because he's also in White Lotus. And he is just coming up huge in everything he's in. So I just really loved watching the two together for the whole episode. It's very, very nice. As it goes with the narrative of The Last of Us, I didn't get too much, so I understand that complaint. But it was still enjoyable to watch, and I still kind of one of those things where I was like, damn, I wish I'd watched this with my wife because I feel like she would have really loved this.
Yeah. It was. So look, I'm kind of with both of you guys. I think it was my favorite episode of this season so far. And I mentioned this during my chat earlier. I called it like a capsule episode, or people refer to like a bottle episode. I've heard conversation around it wasn't a bottle episode. It was, but just for the sake of argument, let's just agree that it is, in the way that it's just focusing on two main characters. But it does sort of advance the story a little bit in small ways, if, like Emily said, if you're paying attention. I really enjoyed what we got to see. I thought the acting was as good as we could get. Like when I look at Nick Offerman, I go, there's a comedic actor that's at the top of his game. I like when comedic actors turn in like dramatic performances, and I was listening to the podcast, the official Last of Us podcast, and they talked a little bit about how much they liked it. But I just got done with my second rewatch of Station 11, and if I do a hard comparison, the acting that I saw in episode 3 of Last of Us versus just any episode of Station 11, and I know you guys are probably going to hate this because The Last of Us is a great show, but if this is as good as the acting gets, like Station 11 beats it hands down every
Kassem loves this show, and I haven't been able to watch the show yet. I'm going to, Kassem, but you talk about it every week.
Every week,
probably
because
every time
so
I see you.
many parallels. There's so many parallels between that show and this show. However, I thought the way they did this episode was, it was masterful TV making. It really was. It was very well done. I loved the whole setup. I loved the book ending of Joel and Ellie. And I found out some new stuff about the world, which we'll get into. And yeah, I thought it was really good. And like a good love story should be, everyone was really like emotionally affected in a way. I think that's great. And I think that was the whole point of the episode. I don't know if I think it's as good as everyone on Twitter seems to think it is, but I thought it was a very, very good episode of TV. Is that controversial?
No, I agree with you.
No, I think that's kind of the consensus, is like, it's really good. I think the controversial thing is people being like, this needs to win every single award ever on the planet and be in the Hall of Fame for best TV episode of all time. Which, like, I think it's really, really good writing, but I also think, like, ooh, that's a big ask.
It is. There is, I hate to say it, there is better TV. There has been better TV, and there will be better TV than this. But this is, like, very good for a video game adaptation. Like, they have every opportunity, and you guys know, for video game adaptations to just become absolute dog shit after they're adapted. And they've avoided every moment to become dog shit, and the choices that they made, and spoiler, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but in the video game, Bill doesn't die, right?
Or at least we don't see him.
We don't see him die.
As far as I know, he doesn't die.
Okay. In the game.
Yes. Okay. Right. And he finds the body of Frank. I think Frank hangs himself.
Yes, Bill essentially kind of drives Frank away, and I think Frank gets bit in trying kind of after they kind of had a fight, and so Frank takes his own life.
Yes.
Here, I'll drop something for you. How about this? I think we're going to see Bill later on in the series.
Oh, interesting.
Just for fun. Just a fun little theory. That's just like, I was thinking about it because I was like, we didn't see their bodies. And I was like, maybe something happens with Bill where we get to see him later. Also, for some reason in my head, I keep imagining that I saw other Bill sections in like trailers for the Last of Us show.
Yeah, you might be right. I think,
but I don't know. I could be wrong.
That's not a big stretch.
Just for fun. I could be wrong, but whatever. Just for fun.
Well, he was great in it.
Big pit psych out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was expecting Joel to be the one in the pit from the trailer. And for it to be Frank was a surprise.
Yeah, well, okay, well, let's get into the episode because there's a lot of fun little moments, and I'm sure we'll spend most of it sort of talking about the love story between Bill and Frank. But before that kind of unfolds, like I said, it's bookended with Joel and Ellie. And in the beginning of the episode, you've got Joel here. He's kind of doing some like rock stacking, which is I've always associated with like crunchy granola rock climber dudes,
It's a grave. It's a grave.
It's a grave.
Is it okay? So talk to me. What is he doing? What is he doing?
Emily, go right ahead.
Tess's parish, and so we kind of see how. I mean, there's a great way it does in the game. Joel doesn't outright tell Bill that Tess is dead, and so Bill, in fact, in the video game, gets like super mad at Joel and is like, "Well, like, kind of like, where's Tess? Like, Tess wouldn't do this, or Tess would pull you out of this." And he's like, "Tess is dead," and so it's hard for Joel. Like, this is the second. He's probably lost countless other people, but this is the second person who's really, really meant something to him, and so he didn't get to see her body, but instead he just for him in that space and in that area of mountainous Boston, which was very funny to see. There is going to be a little remembrance for her there.
And guys, I see the chat. Of course, I understand that that's what that is. I'm just trying to drive some conversation here.
It's a joke. He's just making a joke.
Trying to make a joke.
Kassem is not known for making jokes, I know, but
I know, I understand. So he makes this little rock memorial. Then he walks over to Ellie. Ellie has a conversation with him that's kind of like, look, and he's like, no, I don't need your sorries. And she's like, I'm not going to tell you I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you that you took on this responsibility. You knew what this was. I'm not responsible for her death. And so, yeah. What do you? I mean, what's the point of that conversation with them, and sort of where did they end up before and after it? Oh no! No, there's
Go ahead,
your audio.
Emily.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
go
thot
ahead.
I lost your audio again.
No.
Oh,
It's
no,
all, it's
I
all
was
you.
just
It's all
What a
waiting
you.
pregnant
for someone to go
pause.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I want the guest to go first. So go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I thought it was interesting because, yeah, we get later in the episode, kind of towards the end, we actually get the conversation between them that's after they escape the state house. And so this was kind of a new piece of dialogue between them. And I think it's really interesting what they're doing with Ellie. We're going to talk about this in a bit with her and the clicker. But they're very much at the beginning. They're not showing, she's not just this kind of, oh man, what's this? What's the world? Wow. Kind of almost Disney princess-esque, like Ray, I'm discovering something new for the first time. She's a hard ass. She's fascinated kind of with the idea of death and killing because she can't die from this thing. And so she has this power. She's also kind of like, in the last episode, she asked Joel, like, what was it like killing, I know, because she asked him what's it like killing Clicker, and she asked, what was it like killing the guy from last night, the human, the guy who was not infected, another person. And so I really like that moment, that exchange where she's kind of like, that's not on me, and she's doing it for her own sanity and kind of communicating the boundaries with him too. It's not, this is a two-way street. It's not just Joel and Ellie, it's Ellie and Joel.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was like in a moment where any other show, she would just be like, hey, man, like, look, I get it. I like that. She's like, that's not on me, dude. You knew what this was. You're doing this for a truck battery. Like, this is kind of what happens. This is the name of the game. I like that. And it sort of sets the tone for the rest of the episode where, so they decided to go on a little hike here. It's about a 5-hour hike. And she decides to ask him every question under the sun, right? And so it's fun that we're starting to see the budding seeds of this relationship of Joel, who is like got the biggest wall up, doesn't want to let anyone in because what'll happen to his daughter and to Tess, he'll eventually always lose the people that get close to him. So he's got a barrier around. But it's fun to see Ellie chip away at that. And there's a lot of cool shots here where they're on their way to sort of this like general store, this little convenience store. And they've got to pick up some supplies. We see Mortal Kombat 2 arcade, which I thought was really cool.
That was funny.
It was a nice touch.
I was wondering if it was going to be the game they made in the game, but I was like, oh, great, they got the license of Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah. What's your favorite Mortal Kombat, Bruce?
Mortal Kombat 2, Kassem, obviously.
See, I'm more of a Mortal Kombat 1 guy, a purist.
Yeah.
That's what brought me. That's what bought me a Sega Genesis. That was what sold the console for me. There was a scene, like a lot of this was kind of like forgetful, except for the part where I can't seem to get this out of my head, where they have so she kind of finds this little like a little hatch and she dives down into it. She finds a box of tampons, which, I mean, Emily, tell me, is that like better than striking gold in a post-apocalyptic world?
I'm sitting there like I watched this at 10 o'clock at night, finished it around like 11:30, and I was just laying in bed till 2 a.m. and I was like, man, that is the worst part of the apocalypse. Like food you can find, but sanitary products, man, oh man, that's gonna be an absolute pain. And so I just love that she not only just takes it and is like, yes, but she goes and shows Joel and she's like, yeah, like look at this find, like this is awesome. I just love that moment.
Yeah. Well, is there a male equivalent for that, Bruce? Like, do we have something that we could come across that's something that we have access to all day?
I'm glad you said the words "come across" because I was going to say the fleshlight. The fleshlight.
Oh
home.
my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Just something you
I'm
could
kidding,
walk
guys.
into a
I don't
Walgreens and
I
just
don't
buy
have a
off the
fleshlight
shelf.
at home. I don't have.
I actually have a box of them, but that's because they sent them to me. And
a box.
yeah,
of
they sent me a
fleshlight?
whole box of them. And
A whole box.
You're gonna be a very rich man when the apocalypse comes.
one of them.
You
No
trade
joke.
those
One
for
of them is
food
an
and
is
guns.
blue because it's an Avatar bait. It's like they spoofed.
Oh
Avatar.
my gosh.
No.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, God, I could rent that thing out in the apocalypse. Okay, yeah, moving on. So there's this sort of trapped runner, and he's got the sort of like more evolved cordyceps. I thought it was a really, really, really great makeup job here. You can see that he's like half blind. I think it's a real nice touch, and they touched upon this in the podcast. Is eventually we know they become clickers and they're totally blind, but they rely on their sound, and so he's kind of like in the middle of this process. And I don't think I'll ever be able to eat sprouts again. But there was this.
It looks absolutely like sprouts. Like I was like, those are definitely sprouts.
They
can't
had
be
to have
anything
used real sprouts, right?
else.
Yeah.
A fantastic makeup job. What's with this moment here? I want you guys to tell me what kind of person just kind of has a little sicko fun here and cuts this guy right across the head,
Well,
right before
I mean,
stabbing him.
To Emily's point, Ellie's obsessed with violence. Like I think she wants to experience what it's like to kill someone, to shoot someone, to do just whatever. I don't think she's been able to. Maybe it's because she hasn't been able to take out her aggressions on the world, because the world has just been beating her down for 14 years, and she's never been able to get any retribution. And that's why she keeps asking Joel about guns, and she keeps asking for a gun. It's kind of one of those things where like I'm not sure what they're driving at with this, and I also don't remember Ellie being this way in the video game. Maybe she was. I could be wrong, but to me that sounds like she just wants to just break that barrier of killing someone, and this was as close as probably as she's going to get until she really has to shoot a gun, because I'm sure that's going to happen in the series.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I know what moment they're building up to with her taking the gun. So I'm really, really excited to see if it plays out like it does if my prediction is right and it's that moment from the game in the hotel once they get to Pittsburgh. But yeah, I mean, for me, this is really doing an interesting job of laying groundwork for Ellie in part 2. Because Ellie in part 2 gets she kind of goes on that dark path, and maybe for some folks it's like, well, how does this like girl who like she also is pretty aggressive with her knife at the beginning of the game, because it's very much like you kind of don't have to protect Ellie unless she kind of gets grappled by a dude and then or a person or a clicker, and then you got to go save her. But she kind of like an Elizabeth in BioShock, she can handle her own in the game for the most part. And so but I do love this because Vanessa Guerrero, a wonderful person, made me watch Phantom Thread recently. And
it's a good movie.
It's about
I love
kind
that
of similar thing to me.
Yeah.
Two people who kind of like they're kind of their own level versions of kind of particular and have their own kind of like darkness, and that they feed off of each other. So I feel like we're really getting to see that Ellie isn't just a girl who's to be transported. She has some darkness, like you said, Bruce, in her. Like, I love the idea that she hasn't been able to take out her aggression from the world. She saw her best friend and the person she confessed her love to, something happens to them, and she's just been beaten down, and now she can finally take a gun, take a knife, do an action, protect herself.
Yeah, we know, the person that she ends up becoming, especially in the second game, is like somebody who's very proficient at killing people. And it's fun to see sort of where that starts. I see her as a slightly darker version of the character in the game. There's like she's playing a darkness that I don't necessarily... I don't think I've seen with Ellie, at least in that first game or in the beginning part of the first game. There's more of like a wide-eyed astonishment to that Ellie in the game, whereas here there's like a simmering violence. It's really it's a choice that I think that's purposely made here, and I really enjoy it. So she picks up the tampons, she kills the clicker, and they make their way outside, and they kind of they kind of make their way across like this little graveyard here, and there's a piece of lore here, and Emily, maybe you can tell me if this, because I don't remember this from the game. Essentially, what we learned was all out like the Holocaust, and it's kind of there's like two sort of Nazi references in this episode. This being one of them. Apparently, Fedra would bust people out of neighborhoods, like we learned at Bill's neighborhood, and send them to QZs. But if the QZ was full, they would just kill all the non-infected people on the bus, because non-infected people eventually become infected, and that's a danger. So the less people there are, the less, I guess, risk there is, which is an insane thing. And it's just something that I don't remember from the game. Am I wrong here, Emily? Is this a new piece of information that we have, like that a new low that Fedra's hit?
I think they might have alluded to something like this, but it was very much in like a passing line of dialogue between either Joel or Ellie and Tess in the first game. I'm trying to think. I feel like this is something more along the lines of we find out from the outside of the QZ zone in Seattle in part 2. Something along the lines of it, because we get lore bits from different cities of like what the status of the QZ zone was, and did the people take back the city? Did they fight against Fedra? But yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm seeing the chat saying there was a conversation in the game where Joel and Ellie talking about the military executing people outside the QZ. So maybe not Fedra, but Fedra specifically, but the military, who essentially is Fedra.
Yeah, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I thought they were around kind of the same entity. Like I rolled.
100%.
Yeah,
No,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And DJ Professor X, exactly right. Technically that was a stalker that Ellie killed. So appreciate that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
We got to get it right.
Notch that. Yeah.
This
notch
is the
that
official, unofficial
Mm-hmm.
Last of Us podcast discussion.
Gotta cut off a finger for every bit of lore you get wrong.
Okay, so exactly. Oh no. And so we kind of start here with. Let me go back here. Oh, I missed a couple pictures here. God damn.
I will say, I think I was actually expecting us to get a similar episode setup that we got in the first 2, where it's flashback, title crawl, episode. So I was really surprised that this episode started with just straight up the title crawl, and then we just got the entire thing. I thought that's how we were going to get basically snippets of the past throughout the entire series. So just the format of this episode was really surprising to me.
Yeah. It seems like they're trying something new with every episode. It seems like they're playing around with the format just a little bit. And so after we have this sort of first bookend, we sort of meet our guy here, Bill. And yeah, he has that cool line about the jackbooted thug motherfuckers or something, whatever that is, in the beginning. And we realize very quickly that he's a doomsday prepper who, like, essentially everything that he was prepping for happened, right? And there's a little bit of satisfaction here that I was like, this guy, these guys are
definitely
crazy.
satisfied.
No, for me, watching him.
Oh, for you.
Yeah.
Wait, are you a prepper, Kassem?
I think we all have a little bit of prepper in us. I got to tell you, there's like,
Do we?
I do have in my garage, I have like a hand crank radio. You know, I don't have quite a go bag, but I have elements of the go bag spread out. You know, and if I had to get them together, I could.
Hand crank radio.
I do think about what it would cost to build a bunker.
My mom's putting cash all over, like she's hiding cash places. Like,
boy, cash is going to be worthless. Let me tell you, you're not going to need cash if the world collapses.
You're going to need tampons. And Professor Exile he is correct in saying that he classified himself as a survivalist, which is correct. Yes. But goddamn, did everything that he planned for pan out, and it paid off. You know, and this was in the very sort of beginning part was like a little bit like that show Last Man on Earth with Will Forte, where you kind of get to just like go wherever, and it's like really fun to see like, oh yeah, where would I go? Like, of course I'd go fill up like 55-gallon drums filled with gas. I'd go do that. I'd go to the Home Depot, and he gets to do all that, put it in his boat, and like he essentially fortifies his neighborhood in like a pretty spectacular way.
Running too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he got the natural gas going, the whole deal. Like he knew everything. He knew all the ins and outs of his little town.
And so if I pause right here, I like this part. This is where they're rounding up folks in his neighborhood. And I didn't notice this when I was watching it. Why does this keep doing this? I said pause. There was a American flag that sort of makes its way across the screen, which I thought was a nice little piece of symbolism. And then sort of we see his underground area here, full on surveillance. But he's kind of alone. Or not kind of alone. He is alone. Like what was his life before? It seemed like he had a mother, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was just him and his mother living. But like, what kind of guy was Bill before all this happened?
He was probably like the weirdest dude in the town. Like he was the guy that nobody ever wanted to talk to. That he was, I promise you, because
he was like, already looking kind of survivalist, post-apocalyptic,
right?
Before everything went to hell.
And if he's living with his mother, and everyone knows he's got a lot of guns and all this, and everyone's just kind of like, man, this dude just like he's the worst.
Yes.
And then it all goes down.
We hear him say there was a girl once, so we know that he's kind of like he was even closeted even back then, so he was kind of a loner and a survivalist in that sense. And then he also wasn't making romantic or relationship connections because he didn't feel comfortable, or we don't know, but that's what I took. He was kind of just like very much closeted and sheltered and didn't want to explore that as well.
Yeah. And that really comes in. I thought, when he met Frank and how quick Frank was to sort of like spot that in him, I'm like, he was seen, and he was seen fast. I thought this was a nice shot of the town. It gave us sort of like a big aerial point of view. Nice big house here. I mean, this is
stunning house.
Really nice place. Not a huge neighborhood, and it did have a church, so some of you may live in neighborhoods like this. I thought this was a great shot.
Kassem, are you jealous of his house?
I'm jealous of the square footage, and as also a member of the West Side of Los Angeles, that this kind of like square footage is insane, and this would be like a $4 million house out here.
I think Kassem is jealous of the basement full of guns. I think he actually is a prepper.
I'm very jealous of the bunker.
And then there's a basement.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. There was a basement below the basement. Yeah.
There's a secret. There's double basement all the way.
There's double basement
all the way.
And he sort of gets like, you see him sort of making food for himself. He's enjoying the like runners that are making their way past his little tripwires and stuff like that. And he's like, that'll never get old. He seems like he's living a very comfortable life, but yes, very lonely.
Oh yeah, he went and got some Camus Vineyard wine. That is fantastic.
Oh, do you know this wine, Emily?
Oh yeah, I forgot that HBO doesn't let you do screenshots on like laptops or mobile devices. If you try and take a screenshot of like HBO will black out the screen.
Yes, and not to shit on your point, because I like to be a yes-ander. That is very true, but for some reason on my HBO on my MacBook, that's how I'm getting all these screen grabs. Can you believe it?
Well, I need to.
Can you believe it? I thought that, but you're very right, because I tried it on my PC, and this is a quick behind the scenes. I was like, instead of doing this on a PC where my OBS is, I have to screen cap all these on my laptop, save them to a Google Drive, import them into my PC. So I'm just saying, just so you guys know, there's a little bit of thought, there's a little bit of a process here. But yes, I've been able to screen cap all these images, and thank God, because otherwise we wouldn't have any media to show.
No, yeah, it's one of my parents' favorite wines, so I was gonna try and take a screenshot and be like, "Look at this!" But now I just have a black screen on my phone now, a screen grabable black screen that just has the text caption "Camus Wine Vineyards."
Oh, you know what? What I'll do for you is I will screen grab that for you and send it to you.
Oh, thank you.
That's the least I can do for you guesting on our podcast. And then we go. So this is how they meet, right? A man falls into a hole. And then they end up
typical
married.
Meet cute.
Oh my God! What a typical meet cute. What was Frank doing? Right? He has no bag. He's cruising around just with no possession.
I don't know.
What's his story? I thought for like the first 10 minutes he was up to something.
Me too. Yeah. Well, he said there was a group of 10 of us, and now I'm the last one. But you're right. He had if other people die, I guess maybe if he had run away from a group of 10 getting assaulted, then he wouldn't have anything. But if like a few people died around him as they had gotten whittled away walking through the forest, or whatever, I would be grabbing their possessions.
Yeah.
So
Well, this was also too at the very, very beginning of everything, and so we see people who are getting on the Fedra truck too. They really don't have too many belongings with them. It's just everyone's kind of nobody really has anything. I feel like at the beginning, and then kind of we see when Joel and Tess show up, they have like Joel has his daughter's backpack, and so you're starting to see people have more and more things. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're just running away, if you're seeing that, because I forget what QZ he came from. Was it Boston or was it Pittsburgh?
Somebody said Pittsburgh. It's been actually Ash said Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
so
might be
yeah, he
alluding
comes
to
from the
Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm.
he comes from the Pittsburgh because he basically says like that QZ is done, that QZ is gone, and we find out in the game in this next episode why.
Oh, he says Baltimore. Baltimore. Okay, Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Oh,
Oh,
never mind.
Baltimore.
All right,
QZ.
Baltimore.
Okay. Never mind. Never mind. Thank you for the correction. But yeah, I mean, I felt like it was it's definitely interesting that it doesn't have stuff, but man, was he charming.
He was
Yeah,
charming.
right away.
And you know, he played it right. And I do like Bill's sort of like, well, if I feed you, I gotta feed every hobo and bum out there. And he's not wrong, but if he's letting him go, that's dangerous, right? It is dangerous in its own right, because now somebody knows there's a guy out there who's got a nice little situation going. I think it was smart of him at least to let him in. And boy, did he enjoy that shower. He got 5 more minutes in the shower. How much hot water do you think is in there? Like, how long of a shower do you think he can take? Because he ended up taking 2 in that same night.
We're talking like 30, 45 minutes, right? Because no one's using the hot water in the town at all except for
him.
Bill.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
And we never see them pumping water. So I guess the assumption is like, no, the water lines for at least Bill, maybe he worked on him off screen. The water lines are still A-okay.
Yep.
I have,
exactly.
And you guys should all have a friend like Bill, okay? I have a friend like Bill where he's very weird in social situation, very awkward, but if the world were going to end, he's the first person I would call because he has firearms and he knows like where we would need to go, which is somewhere in Idaho. Like there is a place, and he know, but you can't like hang with him for too long. So here's Frank about to enjoy fresh rabbit. You can see on the look on his face, he's like, "Ooh, I struck gold with this guy." And do you think right now he already knows that Bill is gay? Do you think he's figured it out by this point, or do you think it's by the time he gets to the piano?
I think he mentions the wine. The wine pairing is where he's starting to figure out that this may work out with Bill.
Yeah, I just love the little moments that Nick Offerman does. First of all, he's doing a plate on top of a decorative plate in the apocalypse, which is detailed. And then I just love he's added this almost little character moment where he always just kind of turns the plate to perfectly be angled right there for the person eating it. And I just love those like little moments he's added to the character in this episode.
It was a really good touch. And in the moment where he's like, I know I don't look like the type of guy that would know wines. And Frank's like, no, you do. I thought that was a really sweet moment.
Yeah, it was.
Linda Ronstadt, Emily, your thoughts on the music selection. There was a conversation that Craig Mazin had about the choosing the song. And I guess he had like a Broadway friend of his, and they were trying to find a piece of music, and he was like, it's got to convey like longing, unrequited love, but it can't be too mainstream. And then boom, he hit him with this Linda Ronstadt song right away. I have never heard of this song, and maybe that's me being uncultured, but I
know who Linda Ronstadt is.
I know who she is. Never.
I feel like I've not heard this song. Yeah, like this was an interesting pull, I thought.
I don't know her, and I've never heard this song.
Oh, thank God. Okay, great. I'm not
a
complete idiot. Okay, great. It was fun to sort of have Frank here stab at playing and singing the song, and Bill just like, no, I can't. Like, let me do it. You know, there was it was another moment that I didn't think that this Doomsday Prepper had in him. Fantastic, and it leads to this very tender moment here that happened really quick. What'd you guys think of this?
Go ahead, Emily.
I mean, I love the dialogue of like, I don't want to like look like, hey, And I feel like that's one of those things too that you think about, you don't really think about in the apocalypse. But we see between Joel and Tess, they kind of are two people who've paired off. I think when everything goes to hell, I think the most important thing, I mean, this is different every kind of zombie piece. It's humans are the worst thing. It's not humans are the monsters. It's never the monsters. In that it's all about the preservation of humanity and ourselves and just kind of hope. And so I think Bill's kind of like, or sorry, oh no,
Frank.
What like Frank? I was like Jake. That's not the right name.
Yeah.
I think Frank kind of sees this not only as an opportunity to pay this guy back, but I think he really sees that Bill's hurting. I think he sees this hidden man inside, and he's like, you know what? Like, if I can do one good thing, I'm gonna make this guy feel great, and I'm gonna make this guy feel loved during this time because maybe this guy's all alone. And I think also too, there's probably a selfish side of him. He's like, well, maybe this works out, I can stay here, get some food. This will be good for a bit, and then I can bounce. But then we see that this kind of relationship just grows and grows and grows.
There is that moment that they're in bed together, and Frank's on top of him, and he says something like, you know, if this happens, I'm gonna stay a little bit longer. And I still wasn't totally sold on the honesty here from Frank. I thought maybe he had some other motive. Like I
think they both definitely had walls up. I think they both had their own motives, and they both kind of were. It's that, I don't know, can I trust you? Can I trust you? Can I trust you? But doing this intimate act is one form of the most kind of personal trust you can give someone.
Yeah, I took a lot of screen caps here. I took a lot of screen caps of this moment.
How come, Kassem?
I just thought it was a lovely moment. That's all.
You break out your fleshlights with it. No, it was to me. It seemed like Frank kind of was like, "You're my last option," and he sort of hit the jackpot with Bill because he could see Bill from a mile away. He could see what he was, and I know people in chat, and I thought the same thing. We're all saying it happened so fast that Bill let his walls down so quickly. I think this was supposed to be over the course of like maybe 5-6 hours, probably. Like a dinner and a shower,
but
and
the same. It's definitely the same day. But yeah, the wine really speeds things up.
And also like because I thought the same thing when I was watching it. I was like, this seems really fast. Like, would he really? And then I was like, if I were Bill and I were starved, and somebody came along that I was like immediately attracted to, and they were attracted to me, and it was the apocalypse, I'd be like, let's do it. Like, let's just get this shit over with.
Because I feel like, the apocalypse is literally the personification of like, tomorrow you could die, and you never know what can happen tomorrow. So why not live for today?
Yeah,
you go right away like that. That's, I mean, like the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, it makes sense. I think we could get there quick.
Yeah, the pandemic babies that were born, because people were just trapped inside, and then
and the relationships that ended.
Yeah.
The pandemic.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know. Next scene, we fast forward to 3 years later, and this I really liked because now we sort of see their belief systems clashing, and you have Bill, who's all about survival, protection, not letting in the outside world, and Frank, who's the opposite, and he tells him, I want to love the way I love. I want to invite people in. I want it to look nice. Are you a Bill or are you a Frank? I'll have each of you sort of take a stab at this.
Good question, Emily. What do you think? You want to answer first?
I'm a dead person in a hole or a clicker. Like, I would love to get to the point of Bill and Frank. My fight or flight is wired poorly. I have about a 5-second delay. But okay, in all seriousness, I think we all, I don't know if I'm probably a little bit of both, but I don't think that makes me a good survivalist. I feel like you got to either be like, I think in Frank's situation, I would be kind of a Frank, because if you have that safety, if you have that kind of like, okay, we have our needs met, we are safe, we can take care of each other, then yeah, I think it's all about survival versus living. And I think Frank wants to have that semblance of what it meant to live again. He wants to feel like, I want to make the store look like it actually was a store again. I want to paint. I want to later on with the strawberries, he wants to live instead of just survive, where Bill just like wants to survive because you never know what can happen.
it's such a great it's such a great theme to hit on, exactly what you said, surviving versus living. I don't know where I feel like the older I get, the more of a Frank I become. But then I go, well, maybe that's because you don't have kids yet, because if you had kids, you'd probably be more of a Bill. I think, there is something to be said, and I think they both really needed each other because they couldn't have done it without each other, and Bill would have never had any sort of like fulfilled life if it wasn't for Frank, and Frank would have died early on if it wasn't for Bill. It was really nice, and they did a good job here as like sort of folding in Tess and Joel, and so I guess Tess and Joel, according to this, were sort of like at least partners for quite a while.
I mean, I thought I assumed that they were romantically involved and business involved as well. Like they kind of were just partners all the way around. And and I think it was Triple Daddy in chat said it was like they had been partners for 15 years. If you're like looking at the timeline, which I'm not sure about, but it seemed like that. It seemed like they were together for a while.
Yeah, and it makes sense, and it makes it like the scene in the episode previous like that much more impactful, because he didn't just lose somebody he knew for a couple of years. He lost a partner that he spent the last like decade and a half with, and his reactions are that much better. Like he really tried to ball it all up, and he did. And he finds Bill, who's sort of like, they're the same person, and they bring this back up. They're both survivors, and they'll both kind of do whatever they have to do to survive. And at this moment, Joel kind of tells him, look, you're going to get raiders. They're going to come at night, and you need to be ready. And he says, no, we'll be fine. And I thought that was obviously a foreshadow there, but it was a good sort of, Joel was good to him. He was good to Joel, but like in a, almost like a professional way, but they understood each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we got stuff in the QZ that you don't have here, and you have stuff here that we need. Like, let's make this beneficial. Meanwhile, I love that Frank is like, okay, I figured out what we're going to do for a code. And he's like, he's like the creative producer of this. And we're like, Joel and Bill are kind of like the technical producers. Like, no, we just got to make sure this gets done. We don't need a PowerPoint. We don't need a crazy font. We can stick with Times New Roman.
Yeah. There was like that moment where he's like, I can get you high tensile aluminum. And he's speaking Bill's language right there. He's like, ooh, yeah. Talk to me. I get you 6 spools of high tensile aluminum. And yeah, they stayed in touch. And there was this fun scene where Frank gives, and he tells Bill that I traded one of your guns for strawberry seeds. And he's like, well, which one? He's like, one of the small ones.
He goes, yeah, one of the small ones. I love that. That's a great line.
Would you trade a gun for some strawberry seeds, Bruce?
Of course I would. Are you kidding me? Yeah. If I had, what was that? He had like 150 guns. I'd be like, just trade one of the guns away, get some strawberries. That sounds great.
Yeah. I think but we didn't know, I guess we did see how many he had in the early episode. I didn't really put it together until Ellie was in front of the wall, but he had a lot.
3 or 4 walls full of guns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even at the end too. So he barely used those things too.
Yeah. It was this is a fun, this is sort of like, this is technically a happy episode, I think. And I know one of the questions I asked you guys in the sheet is like, is this a happy episode? I'm going to go ahead and spoil it and say this is. I heard Neil Druckmann say that it is. And this is why. This moment is like 2 people sort of like living and enjoying a life despite what's happening around their walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then boom, Raiders come, right? We get some really great lighting. And, he finds that gun in the night, or in the little credenza or whatever. And you've got Bill outside single-handedly just like shooting all these raiders who all seem to be on fire and having a hell of a time with the fence, being the protector.
This is one thing, and I'm just nitpicking here just because I can do that.
Please nitpick.
I love
this
the
is
episode.
what we do. Yeah.
But I'll nitpick just a touch. Bill, as a survivalist, he would be hiding behind cover. He wouldn't just be standing out.
Yeah, he was pretty much in the wide.
Yeah. He wouldn't just be standing out in the middle of the street firing a sniper rifle. Like, he would be behind, anything. Which and they kind of didn't. Again, just a very minor nitpick.
But we gotta get him shot, so we gotta stick him in a
right. Yeah.
in a place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought he was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
was
did too.
like,
I did too.
oh
Yeah.
man, are they playing this out where like they actually go and visit like Frank instead of Bill, and Bill's not there anymore or
Right.
something? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna swerve because so he's sort of on the counter and he's bleeding out, and you've got Frank sort of tending to his bullet wound, and Bill's sort of telling him like, he's like, I got copies of the keys here. If this is what he's kind of essentially telling him what to do when he dies. And the next scene we see, 10 years later, he survived. But it looks like Frank is suffering from some sort of, I thought it was ALS. Listening to the podcast, they said they didn't want to like put a name to it. It's either some form of like early ALS or MS. Degenerative disease. Jesus, degenerative disease. That was, and I knew somebody with ALS, and it's so sad, and it's just terrible what it does, because it doesn't really affect your mind, but it affects everything else, your body, and you just can't physically do the things that you once did, even though you can be sharp as a tack, and it's a rough decline. And so that's kind of what we see here. And Bill ended up surviving, and all of a sudden Bill is the one that's Frank is the one that's aging faster than Bill. And then we get into the sort of sad part of the episode. Frank can't sleep. Bill wakes up and he tells him he wants to have one last good day. He's like, without you, I would have never had as many good days as I've had. Let's have one more good day together. And
I love those lines. I love that it's like, look, hey, we've had our good days and we've had a lot of bad days, but I've had more good days with you than anything. And I was like, that's any relationship. It's like it's not all roses all the time. There's no fairy tale perfect relationship. There's good days and bad days, but the good days gotta outweigh the bad ones. And I thought this was just so lovely. Like, give me one last good day. And you're just sitting there, I'm like laying in bed, like, ugh.
Yeah. I looked over at Ashley at this point. She was just a heap of tears, which is easy. She cries very easily, but she's an empath. And, this one got me a little bit too. It's just, Nick Offerman, he's like, for the longest time, he was like the burly man's man, right? He does like woodworking in his spare time, and he builds canoes, and he does all these things. And to see him this vulnerable was really great. It was something else, and he was really feeling it. And these moments that he had to hear his partner tell him like, I'm gonna do one more day with you, and then let's get married, and then you're gonna put like, I don't know, like a half a pound of like pills, crushed up pills in my wine, and that'll be that. It's a really rough thing to hear, but he, it was wonderfully done on his part.
Speaking of Nick Offerman, I just love that in the strawberry scene, we got that tradition, that really good Nick Offerman giggle. I was really hoping we were going to get a moment where he laughed, and I'm so glad we got it.
That was as Nick Offerman as it got right there in that scene. Yeah.
I also think it's kind of a luxury for Frank to be able to say, hey, I just want to go out this way. Which is a big deal. I mean, like, even in today's world, it's kind of a big deal to be able to choose when you get to go out. But I mean, especially in post-apocalypse, because normally this is not the way you get to go. And it was so, I was thinking, I was like, what would I do if my partner said this to me in this situation? And I'd be right away, I'd be like, absolutely, like, yeah, let's do it this way, because this is a much better way than us getting overrun by raiders or clickers or who knows what. And it seems like it was kind of just generally a really nice thing that most people don't have in post-apocalypse in this world.
Yeah, part of me is curious. I wonder, and I'm sure this did affect it. I'm really curious to study zombie media and post-apocalypse media that has been written post the COVID-19 pandemic, because I think not only was it a wonderful moment to have this moment where it's like, hey, you can live out. Two people can be happy in this apocalypse. But I think it was so important just to see it, having gone through a global pandemic ourselves, where we were kind of isolated and stuff, and just the idea of no matter what happens, you can find a way to be happy. You can find a way there will be those who can control their lives and control when to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It was they definitely made the most of it. One nitpick I'll have is Frank's hair. So clearly a wig or something. I don't know. It was really bothering. It was really bothering me. I think fake beards too. Ashley was mentioning. Other than that, it was fine. And here's a so they're at dinner now. He's doing the thing where he's presenting him with the rabbit and the wine.
He sits closer to him
Yeah.
at the other end of the table.
And the looks that Nick Offerman's given, just I think this is why people want to give him awards, although that would be, it's a little premature, guys. We have a whole other year of TV to get through. But here's a shot of him slurping down that sleepy wine. But decides, what does he decide in this moment? He decides he's also going to do it. And this is where it deviates from the game. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the difference and the choice that they made. What do you guys think? Because in the game, he technically survives, as far as we know, and Frank is the one that hangs himself and dies. Do you guys like this ending better?
I think they both serve the purpose that they're meant to. For me, the way I've always interpreted Bill is showing Joel something. Bill is a device in the game. In the game, Bill is kind of who Joel can become if Joel pushes everyone away. Bill lives alone in a town. He's pushed other survivors away, and he ends up pushing his loved one away to the point where his loved one gets bit and is too terrified to come back, and so his loved one ends his life. And then at the end, you take Bill's car and you leave Bill alone, and now he's really, really alone. He doesn't know where Frank is when you get there. He's kind of like, well, Frank ran off, we had a spat, da-da-da-da-da. And then he's confronted with the fact that he's now alone. And so for me in the game, I always saw Bill as kind of like the warning to Joel of like, if you keep on this lonesome, aggressive, not opening your heart path, you will become this. But I think this is so beautiful because they are using Bill in the same way, but they're showing, instead of it's like a fearful message to Joel, it is a message of hope. Bill is kind of like, Joel, you can become you can live a life, you can become a happier person if you open your heart. I love the letter he does, and he means it for Tess, but in that moment, Joel looks over at Ellie and he's like, okay, this is my last chance to really open up to someone again, to care about someone again. And yeah, they're protectors, but protectors, when you protect someone, it isn't just physical, it also means you love them. And so I thought this was such a beautiful interpretation of Bill. I love both. I love the game and I love the show, and I really like this deviation. I think this is one of my favorite changes so far. But yeah, I really loved what they did there. Yeah,
I agree. That was really well said. I think exactly what you said. He can still get that message across to Joel, which he does with the note. And here is like, he's kind of fulfilled his role, right? He protects the person he loves, and there's really no need for him to kind of continue on in this world because he's already. He doesn't want to maybe go back to that lonely existence that he had before, and it is kind of romantic, and they kind of they have a sort of a comment about the Romeo and Juliet double suicide, and it called out the sort of romantic cliche, but I thought it was really well done and a wonderful wrap up to a story, in this quote unquote bottle episode.
Mm-hmm.
Once they
we got our characters in their outfits. We got Joel and Ellie in their traditional game outfit. We did it, guys.
It's over.
Stop the show.
They kind of get in. They have a shower, and in the real pivotal moment here, where Ellie's reading this note that Bill had left for Joel, even though he didn't. Have a plan of Joel coming. He just knew Joel would eventually make it there, and he would, since he knows the gate code, he wouldn't be blown up by his tripwires. He.
I love that.
Very funny, and that he's talking about protect the one we're here to protect, and although he wrote Tess in the paper, I think as the audience we all know that now is Ellie, and sort of the realization of him having to be this person, be this protector, goes above and beyond any sort of like need for a battery and need for just survival. Maybe he should try living. I thought it was really well done.
I don't think that Joel has fully converted yet to really feeling like he should be caring for Ellie.
No,
I
in
think
the game, it doesn't happen for a long time.
it takes a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah, and in the show, I think it's also going to take a long time because every time Tess is brought up, or even I mean, Ellie can't even say the word Tess because she knows it's going to trigger Joel. Yeah, because Joel's like she's reading the letter and she can't read the word Tess. So it's very much like he is still hurting from the Tess loss, and probably for the next few episodes he's going to be. So I think that this Bill and Frank love story is going to pay off, but not for quite a while for Joel.
Yeah, we're just gonna slowly chip away at his wall, and eventually we know where it ends up. But it's got to be rewarding when it happens. So he's still got to sort of maintain his sort of stoic nature.
We see a twinkle of that in the car. We start because as soon as after, I thought it was really nice the way they paired Joel laying down the rules. That happens in the game after the state house. So I really love that happened right there after they got their gear from Bill, and it's like, look, you're gonna do what I say when I say it. You're not gonna mention Tess anymore. And then for him to get in the car, and then that moment where he kind of is like, Ellie finds the cassette tape, and he's kind of like, oh, don't do that. But then he's like, he softens for a moment. You start to see Joel dad Joel come out, and you're like, oh, there it is. He's twinkling out. That's kind of the glimmer of Joel relaxing to this other person, or just kind of living for a moment in that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. It was absolutely nice to see that moment in the car. It was fun to see her sort of see like what it's like to be in a car for the first time.
I know I love the moment that she didn't know what a seatbelt was. I thought that was such a great, just little kind of tiny little moment.
Yeah, and then they drive off, and we play that Linda Ronstadt song, and Joel says he's like, oh, I love this song, and then we sort of pull back on that shot of the window that was open, and the episode ends there. And one thing I remember hearing in the podcast was they had an idea to do every episode to have some sort of window scene, because obviously in the screen of the loading screen of the game, it starts with an open window, and
interesting.
And they toyed around with it, and I think eventually abandoned it, but they were able to use it in this episode. So I thought that was a real fun way to end it, and it was very poetic. And if they would have just kept pulling back, we would have seen just a rotting, decaying couple set of bodies. So there was that's my episode. That's my one note is I wanted to see. I wanted to see maggots.
Oh, no.
I wanted to see two skeletons on top of each other, maybe even 69ing. We don't know what they went up there to go do.
They died 69ing, huh? Wow.
We don't know what they went there to go do. I'm telling you.
That's true. That's why look, usually when you don't see dead bodies, generally speaking, sometimes they can bring them back. That's why I thought I had a little theory. I was like, I wonder if, and also we know Bill is really hardy, et cetera, just for fun, just to imagine why Bill would come back or what. That's what I was kind of thinking about. I was like, they didn't show them, so maybe, just maybe, we'll get Bill back. But I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Come back as like a stalker or as a zombie. Is that what you're saying?
No. Coming back as like somebody
Bill
to help Joel. And again, this is just for fun. I don't know that it'll actually happen, but we'll see.
Well, anything's up for, we've only gone through 3 episodes, and there's we say 9 episodes?
Yeah, there's like six episodes left.
6 more. Mm-hmm. Emily, do you have any sort of hope for the next episode? Do you have any idea of where we're gonna go next in this series?
I think the next one, I saw the teaser for episode 4 that HBO put out. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna be in Pittsburgh. We're gonna be in that. I believe that's the next kind of big segment in the game you get to when you get to the Turnpike. And that's when we meet kind of the raiders who inhabit that QZ. I think that's going to be mostly about them surviving. I think we're going to get the payoff from Ellie finding the gun. I think we're going to see that payoff in that episode. And I'm guessing we're going to meet Henry and Sam at the end of the episode.
Oh, okay,
and
great.
Boy, howdy, those characters and that performance is what's going to break me. I'm curious to see if I cry as much as I did in this Bill and Frank episode
Yeah.
for Henry and Sam.
There is going to be no shortage of bleakness and sadness coming up in this series, and if this was the happy one, God help us all moving
Oh
forward.
yeah, no, the rest of it's going to be terrible. We know that's going to happen.
Emily, thank you so much for joining us. It was such an honor. I hope to have you back. Maybe we'll get you in a few weeks.
Yes, I'll be in a better setup.
Oh, I can't wait. Where can we find you? What are you up to? What's new, and like where can we seek you out right now?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. That's kind of where I post everything I'm doing, articles, work, videos, guest appearances, you name it. That's frankly_Emily on Twitter. I've got a really, really fun Vanessa Guerrero, the wonderful Vanessa Guerrero.
Yes, of
and
course.
myself have been working on a fun secret project that we are excited to release on February 4th. I think I saw some people in the
that's
chat.
in the next few days.
Yeah,
I've heard about it. You guys are gonna love it. It's an absolutely
Oh,
fantastic idea, and Vanessa was telling me all about it. It's I can't wait, and I'll be the first to listen and watch.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a really fun. If you liked us going nuts on G4, just talking shop about who knows what, you're gonna love this. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be posting about that on our socials. And then I'm planning to read once I move and I've got my setup all good and new. I've written some scripts, so I'm going to start publishing my own VODs. So that will be going up on YouTube. I'm very excited to be finally publishing my own work on my own channel. So keep an eye out. I'll be talking about all that on my Twitter. So Twitter's the best place to find information about me. And yeah, I'll be posting that when that happens. And thank you so much for having me on. I've been having so many thoughts in my head about this episode, and it was such a joyful time to talk with you both about them.
Of course. Thank you for joining us. It's always great to have you. Bruce, what do you got before we go, buddy?
Well, I just procured a Fleshlight sponsorship.
Oh.
Yeah, and I thought
I gotta see if they've got the new Water People Navi.
I referred I referred you to them as well, so I should be emailing you.
Discount.
Amazing. And if you're watching this on Bruce's YouTube channel, please, for the love of God, subscribe, click the thumbs up, click that notification bell. This guy is a prolific content creator, and I thank him for his companionship and allowing me to do this with him every week. I love doing it. Thank you guys for hanging with us. I know we have some technical difficulties. We're trying to utilize Twitch's native features as best as we can. Sometimes there'll be a little bit of an echo. Sometimes it'll be fine. I think that's part of it. We're live, baby. I want to thank everyone that showed up in the chat, all of Brucey's people, all of my people. Thanks for the subs, the follows. We're here Monday through Thursday every week, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for stream. We've got some RP, some GTA RP coming up. We've got some IRL stuff. Maybe me and Bruce will go to a local taco place and live stream that, because everything is content
love that.
now. Everything is content. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, until next week, I'll see you then. I appreciate you guys coming. So long. Okay. I'm going to end the record.